Welcome to the Businesstalk podcast. I am your host Deepak from India. We are honored to welcome Dr. Christian Terwiesch, the Andrew M. Heller Professor at the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, as our distinguished guest on today's episode. Dr. Christian also serves as co-director of the Mack Institute for Innovation Management and holds a faculty role at the Perelman School of Medicine. His influential research in operations and innovation management is published in leading academic journals, including Management Science and the New England Journal of Medicine, reflecting his interdisciplinary expertise and impact. A recipient of teaching awards, Dr. Terwiesch is well known for his engaging MBA and executive education classes. He co-authored the highly regarded textbook Matching Supply with Demand, which has become a standard in the field and is now in its third edition. Leveraging its popularity, he launched one of the first business MOOCs on Coursera, which has attracted over 500,000 learners globally. He authored Innovation Tournaments, a pioneering book that introduced a systematic approach to fostering innovation, featured by major outlets such as Business Week, Financial Times, and Sloan Management Review. This framework has guided organizations worldwide in organizing innovation events and portfolio transformation. His latest book, Connected Strategy, explores how digital technology reshapes customer relationships and business models. It was a Harvard Business Review cover story and a Thinker 50 award finalist, marking it out as one of the top contributions in management thought leadership. Dr. Terwiesch has consulted widely from startups to Fortune 500 firms, helping them drive innovation through tailored events and portfolio strategies. He earned his doctoral degree from INSEAD and holds a diploma from the University of Mannheim. Today, Dr. Christian Terwiesch shares insights from his widely acclaimed book, Connected Strategy, Building Continuous Customer Relationships for Competitive Advantage. It's my pleasure to now welcome Dr. Christian Terwiesch to the conversation. Dr. Christian, we are deeply honored by your presence and grateful for your time with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Deepak. It's a pleasure.
Professor, how did you discover that companies can deliver both superior customer experience and operational efficiency simultaneously? And can you share a concrete example?
Yeah, let's start maybe with a concrete example. So I do a lot of work in medicine, healthcare delivery, and it's really remarkable to see how in the hospital, the patient gets all the medical attention that you can imagine, and we're spending a ton of money and resources on the patient. But then comes the moment of discharge, and it's goodbye, you're on your own now, right? And so there's this discontinuity between the episode in which we provide a service like healthcare and the life afterwards. So you can think the same thing is true for a university. Once a student graduates, they're on their own. The same is true for a car. You buy a car. Once you're out of the retailer's lot, you're on your own. And the idea of connected strategy is that we use technology to smoothen that edge, the edge of that transition, and we stay in contact all the time.
Professor, how should companies choose between the four pathways: respond to desire, curated offering, coach behavior, and automatic execution for their specific industry?
So let's think about, again, this idea of connectivity. So now we're living in this beautiful new world where the service provider, the company, is connected 24/7 with the customer that they're serving. So assuming this perfect connectivity, let's ask ourselves, like, what can we do? How can we delight our customer? And how can we improve our efficiency so that we get competitive advantage? And so in our research, we've basically created a taxonomy of four of what we call connected customer experiences, of four ways we can delight the customer, taking advantage and improving his or her willingness to pay and customer experience by taking advantage of the connectivity. The first one we call respond to desire. So you take out your smartphone and you ask for something, and with no effort and very little delay, we deliver it to you, right? So you might want to talk to a doctor on demand. You might have a question about filling your taxes. Wouldn't it be great if the tax authority would have somebody advising you the moment that you want it? You are in charge, and we make it easy for you. We call this respond to desire. The second connected customer experience is what we call curated offering, where oftentimes the customer does not perfectly know what he or she wants because there's so much choice. Again, think about Netflix or any form of kind of video entertainment platform. There are hundreds of thousands of video titles I could watch tonight. I, as a customer, know I want to be entertained, but I don't know how to do that, right? And so the value add of Netflix comes in the curation, in the recommendation. So now you're trusting the firm with a little bit more work. Help me figure out what is right for me. The third connected customer experience we call coach behavior intervenes in the customer journey even further upstream, where we realize that oftentimes the customer might not be aware of his or her need at the right moment of time, right? So if you think about something like saving for retirements, preventive health measures such as good diet or brushing your teeth, we kind of know we want to be healthy. We know that we want to eventually retire, but sometimes we're just not on top of things. And so with coach behavior, it's like a good parent tapping their child on the shoulder and saying like, Deepak, you might want to really do this now. And then the extreme case is automatic execution, where you trust us to the extent that we automatically do the work for you. We automatically take 10% of your paycheck, put it into an index fund, and manage that portfolio until you hit retirement age, and you stay out of the loop at all.
Professor, what are the critical first steps for transforming sporadic transactions into continuous customer relationships?
I think the first step is really developing a strategy and ask yourself, how do you want to create value by taking advantage of the technology, right? So this is not about the technology per se, it is about using the technology to create a higher willingness to pay, more customer delight, at the same time, improve the efficiency. So that's the first step. Come up with answering this question, what's your connected strategy? The second step is then overcoming kind of organizational barriers, where oftentimes we find that companies are thinking about their customers in a very siloed way, where we think of, take a university, for example. We think of our current students as our students. At some point, they become our alumni, but alumni department and teaching department, they're not really connected. So oftentimes that creates friction in the customer journey. The customer, the student for us, they just think from admissions to studying to being an alum, they think of us as one organization. But within us, the organization, we have many different departments. So creating a common IT infrastructure on the technology side should probably be the first step.
Professor, beyond technology, what organizational and cultural shift did Disney implement to make their connected strategy work?
So I think the technology, the IT infrastructure, oftentimes reflects cultural and organizational barriers. So we interviewed Disney as part of our research, who was at that time when they were rolling out Magic Band, which is the Magic Band, I think, is a wonderful implementation of a connected strategy. They were thinking about their customers as people who go to theme parks, people who go to the retail store, people who play video games, people who come to movies. So the customer is served to many different business units or divisions at Disney. And everybody was caring about the customer, but not in a combined way. And so I think this leads to the problem. You oftentimes see this in retailing, that if a customer is purchasing something after visiting a store, and then they purchase something online, something that is called multi-channel or omni-channel retailing, the firm struggles with that because the manager of the store sees the customer who now bought online almost like a lost customer, because he or she doesn't get credit for having done a wonderful job of advising the customer. For the firm, it doesn't matter whether the customer buys in the online channel or in the store channel, but oftentimes we create through bad performance measures and local incentives, we get in the way and create unnecessary barriers to really thinking about one customer for the enterprise.
Professor, how can companies collect and use customer data effectively while maintaining trust and respecting privacy?
I think the big temptation that we've seen over the last couple of years is that data collection is cheap. Again, I mentioned this idea that we have the connectivity. We are collecting now 24/7. We're collecting data on you, Deepak. And so given that the data comes into our servers for zero marginal cost and storage is cheap, we just keep on storing, right? And I think that is somewhat of a dangerous strategy where we have to really be intentional and ask ourselves, what data do we store? And for that, we have to answer the question like, what are we going to use the data for? How are we going to use the data? And that requires us to articulate a strategy or a game plan of how can we over time do a better and better job at serving the customer.
Professor, how do connected strategies fundamentally change the way companies monetize and generate revenue?
So once you have continuous data about a customer, you can start changing the pricing or the revenue model, right? So in the old world, I sell you a car and you pay for the car and now it's yours, right? And so you're selling a product. Really, as a customer, I don't need a car. I need mobility. I need a service. Same is true for a medical device, right? Where you think about somebody having like a cardiac pacemaker. They don't need a product. They need cardiac care delivered to them. And so the connectivity that we have, we are really changing a product to a service. And that service can be priced now according to the value that it delivers. If it is used more, I can charge the user more. If it works well, I can charge the user more. If it doesn't work well, hey, I shouldn't ask the user to pay for it, right? And so I can basically align my pricing with the utility of the customer. And I want to point out that is a good thing. I'm not nickel and diming the customer by having now charging for the use, charging by the minute. I'm aligning my returns, my revenue, with the value that the customer generates, which is a far better strategy than just the customer putting a lot of money up front and potentially realizing that they never use or need the product in the first place.
Professor, what are the most common technology mistakes companies make when building connected strategy capabilities?
I think they fail to differentiate themselves from others, right? So if you think about the whole idea of strategy is the idea that you get a competitive advantage, meaning that you do something that your competitors cannot. Just implementing technology, just buying a solution off the shelf. There's a lot of talk about wearable these days. I mean, you have a wearable, I have a wearable company. We tell the user that we measure their heart rate and their sleep and what have you. Unless you can tell me what you do better than my competitor, you don't get a competitor advantage. And so I think oftentimes we see executives who are just excited about a new technology. But again, the question is not, is Uber better than a cab company? The question is Uber better than Lyft, right? So you think about ride sharing, the technology, that connected strategy of ride sharing is good, no question, better than the incumbent, the cab company, but that will not get you a competitive advantage unless you show me that your strategy at Uber is better than that of Lyft, that is better than of other retailers. And so I think that is a key managerial decision, that you have to articulate your unique strategy.
Professor, what does automatic execution look like in practice? And what must companies have in place before attempting it?
So I early on articulated these 4 connected customer experiences, and I should have added at that time that we don't see them as a vertically differentiated set of options where automatic execution is the best and respond to desire is the entrance ticket, right? So there are four alternatives. The question is, how much should we let the user be in control? Should the user decide what to do and we make it easy for him or her? Or should the whole thing be automated to the firm? But I mentioned the example of saving for retirements. Automatic execution means like you just trust our bank. We're gonna every month when your paycheck comes in, we take automatically 10% out and we manage it for you. But for that to happen, you really have to trust us. And our job is to establish the trust and learn from you what the right way of spending that money is so that it is aligned with your interests. So automatic execution would work again on savings. We can imagine healthcare situations where in your pharmacy, you don't have to go back to the pharmacy and refill your med. That happens automatically. You can think about driving and mobility, where I have Uber has access to my Outlook calendar and they know when I travel, and without me doing anything, I step out of my driveway and at 8 o'clock there's the car that is picking me up for the airport. So lots of magical customer experiences, but for them to be meaningful, I really have to understand the customer needs, and I have to achieve a position of trust that the customer is willing to really entrust me with that part of their life.
Professor, how do connected retailers, connected producers, market makers, and peer-to-peer networks differ? And how should companies choose?
So far, we really only talked about the demand side, the customer experience that comes with that connected technology. There's a whole other part of the connected strategy that we call the delivery architecture, which is orchestrating the value chain that leads to the generation of the service. At one extreme, you can be a vertically integrated firm like a Disney, like a university, like a big bank, and all the value, all the service that you deliver to the customer is created internally. Now, that is something that is very hard and capital intense in many industries to do. Oftentimes, you rely on others. So the connected retailer is basically selling something that somebody else produced. So if you think about a mobility company, car rental companies, they don't build cars, they just hold cars in inventory that they make available to their customers. Then there are these market makers and these platforms. Again, two-sided markets, platforms have been a big kind of buzzword in the recent kind of internet literature. We like to distinguish between market makers, who are the traditional platforms, and what we call crowd orchestrators, which are the Ubers and the Airbnbs of this world, that is basically orchestrating many independent and small firms and agents and create together then an orchestrated service that leads you or allows you to have the customer experience that you know from an Uber and from a Lyft. And then at the very extreme is what we call peer-to-peer networks. If you think about LinkedIn, if you think about many aspects of YouTube, there's really no firm serving the other. They are just equals and peers in a network, and that oftentimes leads to a lot of utility on the customer side.
Dr. Christian, I would like to conclude this episode with one last question. How do repeated customer interactions create sustainable competitive advantage? And what metrics should companies track?
So the beauty of serving a customer through a connected strategy is I observe you much more with much higher resolution. I get much more granular data to you. So I can learn from that. And we distinguish between two types of learning loops. The first one is I learn about you, Deepak. I learn about you, and over time I can do a better and better job serving you. And that will hopefully lead you to trust me more and give me even more data. Right? So that is the individual level learning loop. There's also a second learning loop, which happens at the population level. As I'm doing business with you, I learned something about you, but there are many more people, by definition, nobody exactly like you, but there are people like you, right? And so by learning from you, I can serve people like you, and that allows me to serve the population at large better and update my assortment of products and services that I offer.
Dr. Christian, thank you for sharing such valuable insights on connected strategy with our listeners today. Your framework for transforming episodic customer interactions into continuous, mutually beneficial relationships offer a clear roadmap for companies navigating the digital age. Whether through responding to customer desires, curating offerings, coaching behavior, or executing automatically, the pathways you have outlined demonstrate that superior customer service and operational efficiency are no longer competing goals, they are complementary objectives. For our listeners who want to explore these ideas further, we encourage you to read Connected Strategy, Building Continuous Customer Relationships for Competitive Advantage, and visit the resources available at Wharton's Mack Institute for Innovation Management. Dr. Christian's workshop chapters and practical tools throughout the book make it valuable resources for any leader looking to reshape their business model. Dr. Terwiesch, it has been an absolute privilege to have you on Business Talk. Thank you for your time and helping us to understand how connectivity transforms strategy, operations, and ultimately competitive advantage. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me, Deepak. It's been a privilege. Thank you.